All right. Welcome back. We are on the Invoker monk here, and I thought, why not make a video on it since I'm literally been playing this so much lately. It's kind of crazy, and I'm in love with this thing. I am absolutely in love with this character. This is probably my top 3 favorite characters I have at the moment. The enjoyment you get from playing this is just beyond, like, I have not had the same enjoyment from any other melee belt in the game. I'm not gonna lie, this is definitely just, in my opinion, the one of the best melee belts there is. Um, and it's not super high investment. It's not high investment until it is, right? So you can definitely make it to the end game. You can do early breach boss and all of these things with pretty mid to low investment. And then once you want to go like full bonkers and you want to just have the best in slot gear, then the investment goes from being affordable to being outrageously expensive. Of course, this is not necessarily the cheapest build in the like very end game state, but it is really good. Once you get through Act 1 and you're in the 15 to 20 level area, like you're level 15 to 20, that's the point where it goes from being a little bit painful to play to just being a breeze, and you just flying through the acts, flying through the bosses, flying through everything, and it just feels incredible to play. I don't remember ever having the feeling that there was a down period where it didn't feel well. It just felt so good the whole time through. Like going through the campaign, going through the early maps, going through the late maps, it was amazing the whole way through. Even doing like the early bosses and stuff like that, like breach boss and stuff like that. It was just so nice, so nice. Now, I think we should start by going over the gear first. And of course, some of these parts can be a little bit pricey, but as you'll see, my gear is nowhere near perfect by any means. It's pretty shitty, honestly, some of the parts. And then there are a couple of parts that I found that was really, really nice. So the nice parts, I'm gonna point them out, but the rest of it is missing a lot of stats that would make everything way better, way higher damage, way more powerful, right? But yeah, let's start with our hovers. So I bought a pair that was corrupted, but the lightning damage had gone down. So instead of it being 1 to 10, it was like 1 to 8, and they were fairly fucking cheap actually. I think I paid like 100 exalts, maybe it was like 115 exalts for those. So I used to wear those, but then I did a breach lord, like the breach boss, and it dropped me a pair of Hoa, so I corrupted them and was lucky that instead of it going down on the damage, it actually went up on the damage. So it went from 10 to 11, and I was like, oh shit, I'm just gonna swap them out, and I threw the other ones on another character. So I've been rocking those ever since. Of course, the preferred outcome from corrupting these gloves would be raising the attack speed and the lightning damage at the same time. That would be absolute number one. However, that's not the easiest corruption to hit, right? Like, but this is fine for now. It works really, really well. So let's check out the next thing, which would be our sapphire, unique sapphire ring here. This is basically what makes the build be able to clear a whole screen with just one hit, right? Because the chilled enemies will be shattered as if they were frozen, and you're hitting a frozen enemy, you shatter it. But now you don't actually have to freeze them, you just have to chill them. And with our gem setup, we automatically do chill ground and stuff like that. So it's very effective, and it'll chain together with other enemies that's nearby, so you can just clear a whole screen. And for the basic mechanics at the moment, like breach, expedition, ritual, delirium, all of these, even for the Chaos Trial, this is just so good. It just clears it super fast and super easy. There are, of course, a couple of mods you gotta watch out for. Stuff like in Expedition, cannot crit enemies, right? Like that would be an absolute killer. No cold, immune to cold damage would be kind of a bad one. But for the most part, there's not really any bad mods for this build, right? Like there is also one mod that'll be bad in the early game before you have your fourth ascendancy. So this one allows the our critical hits to ignore the monster's elemental resistance, but some maps have like 50 to elemental resistance on the monsters. And those maps in early game can be kind of hard to do just because you don't have any way to bring their resistances down. So that mod I would kind of look out for. But yeah, let's check the helmet. We're using an ES helmet, and as you can see, this is pretty bad, honestly. I used this one because it had a really high amount of rarity on, but you could easily find one that's 100 times better than what I'm using here. I simply just put this on because it had rarity and it has the resistances I was needing. So you can do way better than me here. For the armor though, this is one that's gonna be hard to upgrade because when I found this, I was like, Jesus Christ, this is good, right? And I have not seen anything like this again since I found this. I think these are really rare to get when you want to have certain stats on them, like resistances and stuff like that on them, as well as a high evasion and a high energy shield. It's just not the most easy thing to find, so you might have to go buy this or trade for it. But the armor part is very, very important for this build. You want to have as much evasion rating and as much energy shield as you physically can get on your armor, due to the fact that that will give us the maximum amount of spirit from our third ascendancy, which is this one right here, lead me to through the grace. That gives you 1 spirit per 6 energy shield and 1 spirit per 15 evasion rating on your body armor. So getting this and pushing the evasion rating to like 1,000 or beyond that, that's perfect. Pushing the energy shield to 300 or 400 or 500 even if you can, perfect if you can do that. But it is not easy to get a hold of. It's not easy to buy either. If you go to buy something like this, it's gonna be fairly expensive. It's not the cheapest thing in the game. Now, for my belt currently, I'm rocking just a regular rare belt with some life we don't need, but the important parts here would be the mana, the resistances. However, I would like to get Ingenuity in the future and then get a really good breach ring, just to have like basically get more out of it, right? But yeah, this is just a placeholder for now. It's decent, it's not bad at all. Then we have our Everlasting Gaze, which is where we're getting a lot of our energy shield from. Now, preferably, we would want to have one that has 30% and not 23%, right? Like you're getting a 30%er and then you're corrupting it and you're trying to hit that 35% basically, right? If you can get one that's higher on maximum mana into energy shield, that just means you get way more energy shield, right? So that is definitely worth looking out for. It is one of those items that's fairly easy to get a hold of. It's not super expensive. It's like, I think it's like a couple of exalts. And you can also basically chance warp this one very easily by using an Azure amulet, a white Azure amulet base, and putting a chance up on it. It's not a low, like it's pretty high chance to hit this. That kind of goes for the Sapphire ring too, although I would not chance warp these to try and get this one. I would probably just sell the white bases and then buy this ring by itself, right? Because there's a decent amount of exalts you'll get paid to just sell these rings as they are, these white bases. Oh, wait, do I know? I thought I had some. Guess not. So look at that. Oh, I do. Okay, so these bases, technically I could chance orb one into this. You can even make it into a dream fragment if you're super, super lucky. But I don't think it's worth it just because of these sell for around, I would say like in the 20 to 30 exalt range for one of these. So with you only paying 2 exalt for this and 2 exalts or 3 exalts for this, selling one of these rings has basically bought you the ring and the amulet real quick. But you could also just chance orbit and boom, you would have one. But it's not as common as the gaze, right? The gaze is a little bit more common. Now for the ring we're wearing right now, we're wearing a gold ring, which gives us a bit of rarity. It has the cold damage. It has some life, which we don't use anymore. So that's why I really want to get a breach ring. I would like to get a breach ring with all resistance, with cold and lightning damage, and mana. And whatever the last mod is, it doesn't really matter too much, but having those would be very nice. And then adding mana modifier to it, so you have like as much mana as physically possible coming out of that breach ring. Then that in turn turns into energy shield that gives you more safety, and it's just an all-around great combination. Then we have our boots, which are decent. It's definitely not a bad pair of boots. I don't think I will swap these out anytime soon because it's going to be hard to find something that's better. The only thing that would make this better is if it had 35% movement speed and a lot more mana, and probably a high fire res as well. Like, then I would consider swapping it out, but as of right now, I don't think it's worth it. I really like where these boots are at. They give me a ton of resistances, and we get energy shield, and we get movement speed, which is really, really, really nice. Last but not least, our weapon is this weapon I'm currently using. As you can see, it's not necessarily the greatest weapon by any means. It has some stats to it that is very nice, so increased physical damage and added physical damage. Those two parts are very important, and attack speed as suffix. Those are like the most important things, in my opinion, to have on your quarterstaff. So having a high attack speed means you're attacking fast, that means you deal more damage, and having a high physical, since we are converting all of our physical damage to cold damage basically, then the higher we're pushing the physical damage, the better. We could also corrupt this one and then either get 3 suck hit, that would be nice, but even better than that would be, in my opinion at least, would be getting the 50% increased elemental damage, because that would kind of affect the heralds, and it would also affect our ice strike. So having that as a corruption and plus that would be the absolute number one in my opinion. And then not having intelligence and gain mana per enemy killed, but having crit chance and crit bonus instead would be number one, right? Like if this had crit chance and crit bonus instead, I would never change this. Chances of finding one that's better would be slim to none, right? Like I don't think you would be able to do that. That's very, very rare. It's not easy to find one that's super, super good when it comes to quarterstaves. I've been picking them up left, right, and center and crafting them. And I still haven't really found one that's better than the one I'm currently using. Most of the ones I have found has been near good, like close to good, but not quite there yet. So I haven't been wanting to swap them out. As you can see here, we have one that's fairly close, but this one does not have the attack speed, so I didn't want to use this. This one has 7 levels, so that's going to be painful, and no attack speed, that's going to be painful. Low physical is not what we're looking for. This one, for instance, has the crits, but doesn't have high physical and no attack speed. So you're kind of in the... You want to kind of pick and choose here. I would say the critical chance and critical bonus is the last 2 things you want on there, but they are the most powerful things you get on there. So The others are very useful though. Attack speed and high physical damage is a must. It's just a must. Now, if we go to our tree here, so the way I did it is my first ascension, I took I am the Blizzard. The second ascension, I took I am the Thunder. And then I got out of Cruel Campaign into Maps, and I kind of took the Thunder off for a minute, and I put on Meditate, because I was running with a group, and to not die a lot and have a lot higher effective hit pool, having Meditate in the very early game, if you're playing in a group, for instance, is super nice. And then I just swapped back to I am the Thunder whenever I did my third ascendancy, and I got a good armor. Then we got the lead me into the Grace, which gave us a bunch of spirit. And then last but not least, we got the Sunder, my enemies, so we could basically do all the content with no real big problems as we went critical strike or critical builds. Now, a couple of notes here. In the early games, using this one, kind of nice, works really well. Falcon technique is just good in the early going through the campaign. Getting into endgame, you can kind of drop this, especially when you get Hoa. You can basically drop this, you don't really need it anymore. Then we're gonna go for as much crit as we can, everywhere we can, basically. And as you'll see here, we are gonna go over here. So we are gonna have to take this early on once we get our gem that's called Combat Frenzy. The way that works is whenever this generates a frenzy charge when you're hitting an enemy, instead of getting a frenzy charge, now you're getting a power charge. So that is the exact thing we have to use our charge staff, and that's why this note is very important in combination with our Combat Frenzy. Also, another note is going CI is not worth going CI before you have high enough energy shield to where you feel like, so as you see, I'm close to 5k energy shield. I would say like 4500 energy shield is kind of like where you want to be, where you go when you go CI, in my opinion at least. And then having this one as well lets us be or have the charge staff up way longer. So basically, when I activate my charge staff, it's active for 40 some seconds. This could, of course, you could get this from jewels as well. And this is not a must-have. It's just it's quality of life, I would say. So you don't constantly have to hit your charge staff to activate it. And every now and then you'll get skill duration effects are lowered from your map mods, so having this just makes it nice. Another notable here is having some type of stun threshold and having some type of freeze threshold based off of your energy shield is super nice here, since the number one thing you'll die to is getting frozen or getting stunned. We are a melee character, so we do have to be close to the enemies to hit them. And getting stunned or getting frozen means we can't use our skills. Can't use our skills means an imminent death really fast. Also, another thing to note here, I went this direction to gain more ES. This is not something you have to do unless you're going CI, I would say. If you're not going CI, maybe not take these notes here. You could use them others, like in other places. But for me, since I went CI, I wanted more ES. And to get more ES, I kind of had to go in here. That was like the closest spot to gain a decent amount. Of course, we are taking all of our quarter staves here. I'll be taking this one next. And we will be dropping this ES node here as well. And then we'll go up here. We'll grab these 5. These 5 will be the very last point we use. So as you see, I'm currently level 95. And next level I get, I'll take this. And then the levels after that will go like 1, 2, 3, 4. And then whenever we have that fourth one up here and we hit level 100, we are just dropping this one energy shield node right here, and we are adding it up here. So that being said, we've checked the gear, we've checked the tree. Let's check some stats here. So we are currently stacking both dexterity and intelligence due to us using Hand of the Wisdom and Action. That gives us attack speed and gives us more damage. So that works very, very well. We also have a decent amount of evasion rating, and evasion rating allows us to not get hit by enemies, which is really, really nice with this character since we are up close. And in comparison to like my warrior, for instance, which is like a strength stacker with 13k armor, it's so squishy, it dies all the fucking time. This barely ever dies. It's rare to see it die. Usually the only time you're really in danger on this build is early, like walking into a map before you have collected enough energy shield from your Grim Feast. That can be the point where it's dangerous. And if we head down here, we can see, not that far, right here. So you can see we're regenerating around 800 energy shield per second. There is a little bit of a delay to it. I do not have a life flask since I am not the biggest fan of the eternal youth. I kind of like the recharge a little bit better. I'll just back off if I get hit and I'm really low. I'll just back off, I'll lock out, and then relock, right? Unless I'm in a boss fight, then this can be very helpful. And you can swap around and just drop one node, for instance, like drop this node, drop whatever node, and then grab this for a boss fight if you want to. If you feel more safe having an actual flask you can hit to get your life or energy shield back, that is definitely a choice. It's not something I felt was super necessary, and it's not a build I'm personally using a lot for bossing. I am, however, using this for mapping. This is like my current mapper. I'm just not really using any other character at the moment. It's by far my favorite for mapping. I do use other characters, but that's for other things. So for instance, my Spork, I'll use that for doing the Trial of the Secamus if I want to grind that. I'll use my Alot Mage to do bossing or breach bosses and stuff like that, just because it annihilates everything in terms of when like bosses and high life enemies, they just die so quickly with that one. So for that reason, I really like playing on that one for those specific mechanics. But when I'm doing breaches, expeditions, rituals, all of those things, this is the guy I jump on every time, every single time. There's just no way around it. It's just such a good all-around character. It has no real downsides other than being expensive gearing, and having a little bit of problems in the very early game where you're prone to getting a little bit one shot from certain enemies. They tend to be able to do that early on. Once you get your safety up and it feels really, really good, you're just rolling, like you're riding through, you're rolling through everything, and it feels so nice. All right, let's check the gems. So we are now currently full crit built. So we're using charge staff, which basically you create a power charge with your frenzy charge, and then you use your power charge to activate the charge staff. So walking into the map, you will not have the access to activate charge staff. It'll be something you can activate after killing the first 1 or 2 mobs that you'll meet, and that's why the most dangerous situation you can be in is that early state when you're walking into a map, before you have collected your Grim Feast DS and before you have charges, so you can just roll through everything with the charge staff. As you'll see, it's not even a level 20 gem. All of my gems are basically not even like high levels or anything. And it's still just, I haven't even bothered maxing out like as you'll see here, I could easily just 6-link it, right? But I haven't even bothered, honestly, because it's so good, it performs so well. I don't really feel like it's needed. You can definitely do that, and it's a free choice for you to what you want to use. That's why I haven't done anything here, is because it's not necessary. We have our Ice Strike, which I would say this is the one that is kind of nice having fully linked up. It's not, again, it's not necessary. It's just having that last link is like the cream of the crop. But we're using, wait, I should probably quickly go over here. We're using Blind, we're using Persistence, and we're using Perpetual Charge. And on our Ice Strike, we're using Martial Tempo, we're using Primal Armament, we're using Rising Tempest, and Ice Bite, and Cold Infusion. So super nice setup right there. For our Herald of Thunder, we're using Cold Exposure, we're using Strip Away, and we're using Lightning Infusion. So this is the most needed gems. You can, again, 6-link it, add more to it, make it even way more powerful than it is right now. It's not really needed for T16, T17 maps. It's not needed. So that's why I'm showing you like this. I don't want to fully just 6-link everything to like maximize everything when it's not really needed. Then I'll rather spend those 6 links on other characters where it actually is really needed to have 6 links support, because otherwise this just doesn't feel good, right? This feels good on pretty much 5-linked everything, right? Or like 4-linked everything. You can easily drop this one and still annihilate everything, right? So this is not a build that absolutely needs to be fully linked out on every gem. This needs 4 links, right? Like that's pretty much plenty. For our Herald of Ice, we're using increased our magnified effect for increased area of effect. It's just to shatter more of the whole screen, right? We got Cold Pen, we got Conduction, and we got Frost Nexus on our Bell. Now the Bell in the early games, before you have a bunch of auras and are using a bunch of spirit, you can just add as many of these bells as you want to. I think that's still a thing, I'm pretty sure. If it's not, just having 1 bell for the bosses is so cracked. Like rare monsters, unique monsters, magic monsters, they get annihilated by the bell. It is so much DPS with that bell. On our bell, we're using Culling Strike, we're using Deep Freeze, we're using wow, that's a hard word to say. I can't say it. What the fuck? Okay, you can read what this one says. I can't say it for some reason right now. Ruthless, and now for the aura setup, so, or like spirit gem setup. Here, there is definitely room for improvement on my part. The room, like the improvement, in my opinion, would be getting way more ES and evasion rating on my armor, and then gaining more spirit that way. So we are currently sitting at 220 spirit, but if we could up that with another 40 spirit, I would 100% swap my cast on shock, and that is what I have to use right now because I don't have enough spirit. But as you'll see, I have this other gem sitting right here. It's called Cast on Critical. Now this, I would definitely swap this one out for Cast on Critical, just because we crit more than we shock. So it would activate our Eye of Winter more. Eye of Winter gives us critical weakness on the enemies, and it's just like a nice combination with what we're already doing. So that's why we want to have some kind of cast on. And cast on shock was just the best possible outcome here, before we get more spirit and we're able to swap it for the cast on crit. But as you'll see, once we jump in the map and do a couple of things, this works phenomenal against bosses and stuff like that. And besides our Eye of Winter, we're using Energy Rendition, and we're using Impetuous. And then we have our Combat Frenzy, which is what generates our power charges from our keystone on the tree, as I showed before. We have we have profusion in here because what we really want is just maximizing our charges constantly. Get as many charges as we can, and then keep using our charge staff, and we can just fly around killing everything. We have Ghost Dance, of course, with Clarity. Just simple choice, really nice for safety. We have Grim Feast, another safety choice, super nice, works really well with this current setup. Grim Feast basically allows us to get close to 10k ES, which is just phenomenal safety in comparison to having a life build or having a armor build, right? Like on my warrior, I feel so squishy, and this one you feel like an absolute god. So that is fantastic. Let's go into this map. I'll just let me just quickly click the map mods here so we can see what it looks like. Right here. So as you see, this is a decent map. It's not super crazy or anything. It's decently buffed, right? Like decently juicy. And as you'll see now, we'll just run up, and the first set of enemies kind of dictates how this map is going to go, right? So if we run into a super elite that's just annihilates us on like as the very first enemy, that is a problem. That's the only real problem we have with this build, is that initial first couple of hits. If we are not lucky, or like I should say that in a different way. If we are unlucky, we might actually run into an enemy that just one taps us right away when we walk in the map. And that's the one thing you have to watch out for. So do pay attention to that first initial enemy you'll meet. Make sure it's not something that's just completely outrageously crazy and just has like stupid damage or is super fast or something like that that'll annihilate you. Be ready to lock out if you feel like it's something like that, and maybe make a new map or something, whatever, right? It's just not fun. Or walk the other way. Just walking the other way and being able to come at them from another angle while you have charges and when you have ES it makes a night and day difference, right? So that's why we really want to make sure that we have as much ES as physically possible. But as you'll see, we're just flying around. I'm just holding down my ice strike, and I keep hitting my charges whenever I see there is 3 little blue circles rolling around me. If you notice, there's these 3 little circles. 3 charges gives us a decent amount of time in charge staff. So for that reason, I just keep hitting it whenever I feel like there's a little bit of time has passed. But yeah, it's super easy to control. You're not really using a whole lot of buttons. It's not some convoluted combination of buttons. It's not a 1-button build. You have to use these 3. So it's definitely not a 1-button build by any means, but it's a 1 button for attacks, 1 button to power, and 1 button for bosses, right? Like that's how I view it. So super easy to control. Actually, I should open the breach up here now that we see a little bit more of the map. I like to discover the map on certain maps like this, where there is trees and things in the way, and there's like walkways and stuff like that. Being able to see the map first and foremost kind of gives you a little bit of a advantage, knowing which direction you want to go in. So let's open this breach. As you see, you can easily do a breach with this. Easily. You'll annihilate the whole breach in no time. So good at breaches, so good at rituals, so good at expeditions. As you just heard, it popped all the way over here. That's off screen, right? Like, it's legit one of my favorite builds right now. It's just so incredibly good. It's easy to control, it runs fast, it moves fast, it attacks fast. Everything about it is just speed, 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 I feel like. Whereas with my warrior, it's a different situation. It's crawling. But yeah, this is basically it. That is the build. If you like this type of build, if you want to see more of these type of things, do subscribe, leave a like, comment, all the good jazz. Let me know if you try it out and if you really like it, if you're making the build, if you did the same way as me, or if you have a suggestion to what I could change to make the build even better. I would love to hear that from you guys. Big shout out to the last guy that sent me a comment on my blood mage, because he actually made me aware of something I was unaware of. I hadn't tried. I tried it out and it turned out to be really well, and was a super nice comment. I really appreciate when people give good information, especially when it's something I don't know. So please do that if you have some info and I haven't made that clear or haven't said it, then please let me know, because I love to learn. I want to learn more, I want to know more, and I'm still new to it, so bear with me if this is not the best setup or this is not the best in slot build or whatever. If there's other people who found something better, you're very welcome to suggest something, but this is just what I use and how I like it. And it's fairly cheap to get started. It's pretty expensive in the super end game, but you don't need all of the most stupid gears. You saw my gears so good, like trash basically, right? Like it's not trash, but it's just not the greatest gear you'll see. But yeah, have a great day, and I will catch you all in the next one.